Hello and welcome to Nintendo Nostalgia. I am your host Ryan Black, and I am joined with my co-host Jacob Rush, and we are back and we are playing with power. Jacob, how you doing this week?
Hey man, I'm doing great. It's been a good week.
Good.
It's been a pretty darn good week overall. So now I'm just kind of staying in from the heat and trying to relax.
Good. Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, it's a pretty hot one there. It's in the mid to high 80s. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to go up to the 90s for the next few days, unfortunately.
But yeah, that's it's far away from your snow time that you prefer. But yeah, I'm doing good. Just been just kind of biding my time until the end of the month when I've got a big Gen Con event where I'll be demoing games for local I say local, but they're in Missouri, for a company that I support quite a big deal. The creators of Sentinels of the Multiverse. So yeah, I'm gonna be working with that company, demoing their game Compile, which is an amazing 1v1 game, lane control type game. So yeah. But other than that, have you been doing anything interesting? I don't know, has your week been good? Have you had anything eventful happen, or is it pretty chill like mine?
It was a good week. I got to hang out with Kyle Martin, the artist for our show.
Nice.
We drove out to his place on Tuesday. I hadn't hung out with him, honestly, since maybe our Christmas hangout. I remember the last time I saw him in person.
Yeah.
But we hung out. I text him a lot. We talk a lot about health and fitness. So went out there, we worked out, and then we took me to this Mexican place that he always goes to for food, and brought that home, and we finished that Battletoads game on his Xbox One that we started years ago. We finished it out. And that was kind of brutal, to be honest. We were very close to the end the last time we played it, but it was just brutally dumb hard, way too stupid. So we did that. Great workout, good nutritional food, and him and I have been playing through Fantasy VII Rebirth, so we kind of been talking about that a lot, and he let me test out some other games. So yeah, but besides that, exercise, been a good week, been pretty chill. How about yourself?
Yeah, I've just been keeping cool, trying to keep Draco's allergy stuff under control, and bit work super busy. I've been just swamped because my other tier 3 person is out on vacation for the next 2 weeks, and we have a lot of bugs and things that are going on since the last release, so just trying to manage all of that. And we had several people out sick in tier 1 and a couple people out on tier 2, so we're just in general short, and we didn't have any of our customer support managers at the beginning of the week for one reason or another. Hurricanes and sickness and time off. And it's just crazy. So definitely not what I'm Radical Rexing about, but let's go ahead and get into what we are Radical Rexing about.
Well, I told you I'm doing pretty good, but I can kind of build off what I was saying earlier with Kyle. So he let me test out some games. He showed me The Last of Us on his PS5.
Ooh, creepy. Gory.
Yeah, it's just not a game I want to play.
Yeah.
It's gory. It's very graphic. The language is just brutally harsh. A lot of strong language. Not really my taste in gaming, personally. So I'll pass on that one. But he did let me test out the Horizon games, and I gotta say, I think that's gonna be the next big franchise I jump into.
It's a great one to get into. It's really good. It's robot dinosaurs. How can you not?
I know it's funny because it's I remember when that game was up against Breath of the Wild for Game of the Year, and back then I was only Nintendo fanboying, and I did love Breath of the Wild and had a good time, but I'm sitting here playing this, and I'm just kind of thinking I don't know, man. This game feels pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I may end up liking it more than Breath of the Wild, especially if the story sticks the landing.
Yeah.
But been loving that stuff. There's not too much happening right now besides I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it's finally got its teeth sunk into me. I think it took a minute to get back into the groove, and learning the new mechanics and figuring it out, and I'm starting to get to the point where I really want to explore and do everything so I can get really OP, and I enjoy every minute of it. I'm not like, ugh, gosh, got to tread over it. I mean, the game's done a really good job of quality of life. I mean, they've added in a lot of quick travel stuff, which is super helpful. It's just really fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. And it gives you that feeling of what Breath of the Wild did, that fun of the whole map is pretty much clouded over, and then you unlock little area, I don't know, like signals, and it like unlocks a portion of the map and more things you can do within that area that it reveals, and it's just really fun. The music, oh gosh, every time. A lot of times I don't even want to start the game because I'll put the music on. I'll turn the PS5 on, and it's on the home screen, and it always just like plays that Final Fantasy title screen music. I'm just like, this is just so good. Like, seriously, I don't even want to play the game because it's just so beautiful. I could put it on repeat all day long. It's moving and emotional, and it's what Zelda used to be. I mean, it's like when you hear that fairy fountain theme, it gives you, I'd say, I want to say it's the same. This one might be a little bit more powerful for how it's kind of like rushing. It's like an orchestra, but it definitely gives you this very similar feelings. Maybe this is radical Rexing. I was looking up some like hinted articles about on Twitter this week about people comparing back to what Eiji Aonuma, I probably said that terribly wrong, would say about Zelda. Like last December, he did an interview, and people asked him straight up blank questions like about, will Zelda ever star in a game? And he's like, it sounds like a fun idea, but I don't know. And then, of course, that game's coming out now this year, which so at that point it was probably well in development. And the last part was they asked him, the interviewer from I think it was Game Informer, said, I'm going to just ask this for myself because sometimes I've heard that if you ask it, it'll happen. Is there any word on an Ocarina of Time remake? For basically, like modern day consoles and stuff. And he just laughed and said no comment, which to me said a lot without saying something.
Yeah. I think they're probably waiting for the right time. Like, it's not like they're not going to do it, but they're waiting for the right time and the right, yeah.
Yeah, so it got me excited. I mean, that's the one Zelda game. I mean, I would love just like, don't make it look like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Make it look like a modern version of that game, and you don't even have to just give it great quality of life. And I want a Final Fantasy VII remake done to that game. That's what I want. And you can fledge it out, and it just be the most, like, make the point of this game to be, we know the story. Make it to be the most beautiful looking Zelda game we've ever seen in our lives. Like, to this point, that's what I just want to go give more detail and more story driven cutscenes to it. Just like 7, just take the formula they did for Final Fantasy VII remake and do it to that. And my gosh, I would sell probably better than any other Zelda game has. And I think people would love it. I really do. I would love it. And if they did that, then they open up this can of potential, like, okay, now we got another category of Zelda we could bring back and redo that's what they're doing right now. Square's working on Final Fantasy IX remake now, and they can just go back and retell.
Skipping my
sorry. 8. Yeah, who knows if they'll ever get to 8, but it's just cool. And I know nothing. This may never happen for the next 10 to 20 years, or if ever, but it's hopeful, and it kind of has me a little bit, excited to think that maybe this is a hidden Switch 2 gem that's in the works that we get holiday of next year that we had no idea was happening. Who knows? But yeah, that's kind of what I'm Radical Rexing about. What about you, man?
Today's this weekend, I should say, is Pokemon Go Fest. So I've been doing a lot of Pokemon Go, catching Pokemon and things like that. I have been on a hiatus up until this point. I think I stopped. Oh gosh, it was probably like around February time. I stopped playing a lot of the phone games, and just kind of started doing like Switch stuff. So I'm returning to form just this weekend only, and enjoying that stuff. I've been playing 1,000 Year Door. I rolled credits last night. And just going back through now and doing the secret bosses and just making sure I've done everything that I wanted to get out of it, like story wise and everything. I'm going through the 100 trials one more time because there's a secret boss at the bottom there. The second time you go through, and so I'm trying to get to that. And
there's a boss after the dragon boss.
Yeah. There's another boss that you can unlock that appears down there once you've unlocked it. Yeah. So,
I did the trials and I killed the skeleton dragon.
Yeah, there's more. Spoilers. There's more to do.
There's more than that.
Yeah,
I did not know.
There's just like one extra boss down there, and it's on the island, the Keel Hall key. There's that whack-a-mole you can hit, and it gives you that item, the whack-a-bump. If you do it like 8 times in a row, like you leave the area, you go back in, you whack him, and do that 8 times. He'll eventually stop showing up. And he'll show up in the bottom of the pit of 100 trials, and you have to face him. And then the other secret boss is I guess you can fight a giant boo, but that one's not like an after the game thing. And you can fight Mush in the Glitz pit. You can unlock that. You have to do a couple of the quests on the quest board, which I just did all of them anyway. So, but yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, I got to fight him. That was a tough fight. Pretty cool.
I think my least favorite part about that, and I wish they would have improved it in the remake, but they didn't. And it probably just goes to the mechanics of the game. I just don't really the pacing for going into each battle, winning the battle, then getting out of the battle. Waiting for the transition for the new pipe to come up and the bad guys to just it takes way too long.
Okay.
If you think about it, like you're looking at a span of like maybe 10 to 15 seconds of waiting.
Yeah.
Like once a battle's over, it has to do its whole play the song and count your points and your coins, and so then you got to wait till they spin out, and then you can get the coin. And then you have to wait for the whole pipe. All the animation part is just really long. And I wish it was just like snappier and quicker. Like you win the fight, you're in, you're out, you can go right down the next pipe.
So
that was my biggest, because it's 100 trials, right?
Yeah.
So it takes a long time, and some fights are harder than others. But if you're trying to do this, like I literally just had to go through the trials, and I had to leave my Switch. I never exited the game, so I just kind of dedicated 2 to 3 days doing this.
Oh, okay. I'm at the point right now, like where I'm one-shotting everything. So I'm doing at least 25 points of damage to everything that I hit the first hit. So that's
sure. And it was that way for me until I got towards like the bottom. Then,
even through the bottom now. I'm at floor like 85, I think, and I'm just one-shotting everything. So
right.
But I was doing
you beating it after the game.
No, before the game, like before the end. So
you've beaten the final boss, right?
I just did last night, but I was doing that stuff before. What I ended up doing was I found out there's not Merly, but one of the wizards lets you exchange and reallocate your points. And so I just took everything out of health and put it into BP. And so that brought my health down to 5. And then I used those badges that give you boosts in attack, like 2 for each you are at 5 or below. And so I just strapped a bunch of those on because they only cost 1 BP. And so that made me super powerful. And, I'm just running through all that. And I just have the ones that causes the enemy to miss a lot if I'm at low HP. So it's kind of a fun build. Once I figured out that you could do like unlimited and you could just purchase those badges in the you could purchase those badges in the casino, like for like 100 of the casino coins. Like I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep buying these and get stronger and stronger, and that was kind of my path to playing and getting through the battles really fast, and then I'm learning how to collect items better and badges, and so it's just fun.
It's interesting to see how you can like manipulate the game and take different routes too.
When a game gets its hooks into me and I really love it, I like to go and like exercise like this extent of how I can make things work and make most powerful, and I also want to find all the story elements and unlock everything. So that's kind of
you've always been that way.
Yeah, like if I really enjoy it, I'll give it my time, and I'll dedicate my time to that. So it's definitely where I'm sitting with that.
I not to side quest us, but I have a specific memory of playing Pokemon Stadium 2 with you in the basement of your parents' house, and I just could not beat you because and I'm kind of always this way naturally. I've always kind of been about brute strength and power and overcoming by bulldozing. And you kept hitting me with quicksand and had high defense, so you could take my hits, and eventually got to the point to where my Pokemon literally would miss every single time. I mean, there was no accuracy. I would always miss, and then you took me out, and that's what that reminds me of. It's just like most people don't learn the value of a move like quicksand, or yet even keep it around in their arsenal. Most of the time that's like a move that like, forget this. I'm teaching it like flamethrower or something, you've always been able to find those clever ways, and strategize, which is super smart. I mean, I've had to learn myself, even in real life, like how to. You can't just bulldoze through everything in life. You have to have strategy, and sometimes, bulldozing works and is necessary. But when that doesn't work, you've got to be able to pivot and have other ways to getting around that. So you've always been really good at that stuff.
Yeah, I definitely do pretty good about thinking outside the box and just doing things that other people might not think of, and come up with ideas that might work. And sometimes it's a bit hack-like and cobbled together, and it gets you past the finish line, but it may not be the best, the right way of doing something, what have you. But yeah, I always love experimenting that and trying to figure out where things go with that. So other than that, let's see, what else am I Radical Rexing about? I've got the Gen Con thing coming up. I'm really excited about that. They're sending me the demo games so I can play them ahead of time and learn them and be ready for Gen Con to demo that stuff. Yeah, that's something that's really got me excited. And I'm still playing Dragon Quest IX. I forgot how long the game can be if you really want to grind, because like it is the grind. It is either the grinder's nightmare or the grinder's like heaven, as far as like trying to get everything and find every monster and everything. Because some of those things, like you have to be like really high level, and you have to have some luck to unlock the right dungeons. To catch to defeat all these monsters, and I haven't seen all the monsters in the game yet. And yeah, they're different colors and reskins with different attacks and stuff, but I haven't seen all of them, and I haven't seen all the final bosses because they all live in these grottos. And I'm at level 99. I've relocated one of them back to, and I've got that one back up to like level 35, I think. So like I'm my team is really really strong. It's just like you have to keep growing and growing and growing your team to finally get past. You get the better loot, better item drops. I'm trying to complete all of the alchemy recipes and everything, and it's just you've got a lot of stuff to do in the game, and I forget how long it takes. Like you think, oh yeah, I beat the game, but then there's like, I don't know, like maybe 2 to 3 times that amount of gameplay after the game credits roll, and the game isn't super. The story isn't super groundbreaking or anything. It's one of the weaker stories in the game, but the gameplay itself is just so well done, and the revocating your job systems and things are just, it keeps you engaged and keeps you playing long after the story is done. And you can still get more story beats with quests and things as you play through it. But yeah, it's fun. That's all I've been recollecting about. Well, actually, I've got another thing. I just thought of it. So I went to Meijer couple weeks ago, and they had 50% off their Lego Donkey Kong sets. So I went ahead and purchased the 2 big ones that I had been missing, and so I've got a complete set of the Lego Donkey Kong sets.
Man.
So I got the minecart one, the one with DK and Cranky Kong, and so yeah, I've got that collection now, and we've got the whole Animal Crossing collection finished. Definitely don't have the Mario collection finished. There's a lot to that one, but I am ready for the Zelda and the Metroid ones.
Wow, you're better than me, and I'm supposed to be the DKC fan here. I'm actually literally was looking at this right before we got started. I have my Lego set that I got for my birthday last year, and the only thing I did was put Donkey Kong together, and I haven't done anything else. And yeah, that bad me. I want the minecart one really bad with Dixie and everything and Diddy.
Well, if you
I need
stop
that.
at your local Meijer, you might find it half off.
Yeah, it's something. The issue is these purchases are just as expensive as video games or more.
Yeah,
so
and
it's not like
that took it down to $60, like $50-$60 instead of the price of a video game instead of like the price of like 2 of them or something. But yeah, it's still a lot.
Legos. I mean, it's a cool novelty, but I don't do anything with it after it's built, So it's kind of hard for me to justify that expensive of a purchase. But
yeah, with those, like Mario has the game aspect to it, and
which is cool,
yeah, and so like that gives it a little bit more replayability. But if you're not like the kid who sits there and like imagines your kids playing like you do as a kid, like you imagine your figures playing together, you're probably not going to get a lot of use of them. They're just sitting on your shelf and being happy that you have them and showing them off to people.
For sure.
But
For
yeah,
sure.
As a collector, it feels that like completionist. But yeah, if you're not going to like play with that too much, then it's not really your thing. I mean, it's not really something that you have to get all of them for.
For sure.
I mean,
yeah.
Part of it is like you've had stuff sitting on a shelf that you've been proud of, and they got damaged. So that's kind of a big thing where like things lose their intrinsic value if you know that they're temporary.
It's funny because when we started this podcast, obviously I had hit this stream of nostalgia really bad. Like that's kind of like when I started recollecting old systems, trying to get every collector's edition that I could for systems and games that I wanted. I bought a 3DS after I had just gotten a 3DS just so I could get the Metroid Samus Returns version. Like I was doing bad, irresponsible things, to be honest. And then I bought that Banjo-Kazooie statue. And to be fair, at that time, I was like, this is the first time I've ever done anything for Banjo-Kazooie in forever. And, little did we know that we were going to get it on Switch and Smash and have a whole line of merchandise now. And that's pretty much all they're ever used for instead of actually giving us a new game, like people would want. But, like, I bought that and, like, I loved it, but I've gotten to the point where I'm maxed out. I don't got room. It doesn't fit. It doesn't look good to just throw it on top of something else. Like I still collect things, but like I have it's a lot harder for me to justify the purchases. Even like retro game collecting, like I still got a bunch of them, and I'm not getting rid of them. But fast forward over the whole Switch era changed all that, right?
Yeah.
Like we have now freaking. I've got almost all those games that I bought, Game Boy or 64 or whatever. I've almost got them all on my Switch now, which is just wild. Especially the rare games. I got gold. I still had GoldenEye, but Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, it's still coming. Diddy Kong Racing, Perfect Dark, like all these Jet Force Gemini. I never owned any of those. Well, I did. I didn't own Perfect Dark or Jet Force.
M-rated, probably.
Yeah, but now they're there, and this was Xbox, Microsoft. Those are there. And just other games. Bring Game Boy Advance. I bought a Game Boy Advance SP so I could play more Game Boy Advance. And now we got Game Boy Advance games on the Switch. So it's just like...
It could be temporary, eventually those online services will shut down, but so you've got those things to carry forward. But
I hope this spills right over into Switch.
Oh yeah, it will. This is going to go on for a long time. It could, maybe they'll just keep it going, but eventually those things may be taken away from the old systems when they shut down the Switch servers. And then you'll have to be on the Switch 2 servers or whatever's after that, So
yeah, eventually
they'll probably carry them forward, and that service will continue to go, perhaps. But that's
For how successful the Switch has been, I won't be surprised if they're up for another 10, 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, they just shut down Wii U, right? And Wii U was like a freaking awful system for them. So, well, I should shut up so we can actually get into the topic at hand here.
Speaking of expensive hobbies, let's get into today's topic, all about children's card games on the Game Boy Advance. So let's get into this. We've all been into collectible card games. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Like, as kids, we probably had some cards and collected them if we didn't play the games. Like, we had some in our collection. Like, that was just a thing. Like, so, like, you may never have learned to play the Digimon card game. That's fine. But they did have digital options available for you to play. As early as the Game Boy Color, Game Boy, but even more so, like when Game Boy Advance came around, we saw some more iterations come to the States of games you could play. You know, there's Master Duel, and there's Yu-Gi-Oh games, and there's some other card-like games like the Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories game, and so like I just wanted to kind of highlight these games because one of the real draws of this was that if you played the card games or collected any of the cards, like these games came packed in with exclusive promos you could get nowhere else unless you bought the game. You know, physical cards that you could use in your actual deck to play the game or put in your collection, and they had some value, like trade-in value, and you could use those to get other powerful cards that you wanted. So, like, you know, there's a bit of an exclusivity to it. In addition to having like a game to play, which has all the cards in the library at that time, like you can afford those things a lot more than just buying packs all the time and hoping you get what you want. You know, it's expensive to buy blind packs and to waste your money to get a bunch of duplicates when you could just have a game that has it all right there. You can build the deck that you want and you pay one price, like what, $30-$40. That's it. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today is just what my memories with those types of games and kind of what that brought for me. And it still doesn't shake me from buying the physical cards because those things eventually become obsolete up until recently when they've had like Duel Links and Master Duel where they add the new cards all the time. Like these were iterations in the past where they didn't have DLC and you couldn't download the latest card databases. And so this is what you had to work with and what they gave to you, and that's what you could play over and over and over again. And sometimes you could link up and play with your friends, which is great. But, you know, that was your card collecting. And you could open up the packs and dual duelists to get money to buy more packs. And so that it had that hook that you have in real life, but you're not spending real money on it outside of what the initial startup fee. And so that's the big lure to playing those and not having to shell out, money you don't have as a kid, your parents' money, essentially, unless you got a job. And even then, like, you wanted to spend that on other things like video games. Like, you had to choose your hobbies and pick what you could do. So,
for sure.
But the first game that kind of got me into this whole thing was I was huge into the Dragonball Z collectible card game. It's affectionately called Score Z nowadays, or Pan Z, which is Panini did a reboot of that same series with the same mechanics and everything.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, I was playing this Score game, and the game that they brought to Game Boy Advance was Dragonball Z collectible card game. It was made by made by Infogrames, and they had like one track playing the whole game, so they didn't put a whole lot of budget into it, but they got all the cards working for the most part. They did what they said that they were doing, and things were slow, animations were slow and everything, and you didn't always know what was going on because it didn't really have like a great tutorial on how to play the card game, so you kind of had to know how to play it already. But that was the kind of draw of it, was like, oh my gosh, they actually have a card game for Dragon Ball Z in digital form. Like, nobody knows about this game, and there's a game on Game Boy Advanced. Heck yes, I'm gonna get that. And it got a promo card with it. You got the what was it called? It was Red Overbearing Attack, and it had Android 17 and 18 delivering knee rushes to Krillin and Gohan.
I remember this game, man.
And you know, it had Trunks on the cover, even better. Like, Trunks is my favorite character. Like, so awesome. Like, this was right at the time where it was a Cell saga. And so, like, you got to play some of the Cell game stuff and experience that. And you could play, you know, different characters and build their decks of different types. And it was basically the card game in digital form. And it wasn't super in depth, but it was so fun to be able to play that and have a place to officially play it where I didn't have people around who actually played the game. So that was a huge draw for me. And then I started getting into Yu-Gi-Oh. So with the Dragon Ball Z game, that came out in 2002. And then the Yu-Gi-Oh game that I picked up came out in 2003. And that was one of my early pre-orders because I knew that I was like reading and like trying to figure out, okay, there's a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh games on the Game Boy Advance. Which one is the best one that has the actual card game rules on it, you know, and even better if it comes with the cards, you know, you get exclusive cards. But I wanted to play the actual game, not with like modified rules, special rules or anything. It wasn't the actual card game. I wanted the actual card game. And so what I ended up pre-ordering was Yu-Gi-Oh! Worldwide Edition, Stairway to the Destined Duel. And it was pretty bare bones as far as card games go. Like, you couldn't see the preview of the cards. They were all like color of the card, the type that it was, and a black screen. But if you hovered over it and you looked at the card, you could see what it did and you could see the card art on it. But pretty basic. You know, you play against characters and get money for packs, and you unlock more packs. And you know, it had a online function, or not online, but a two-player multiplayer function where you could connect with a Game Boy Advance link cable with your friend and duel it out, which I never really took advantage of. I didn't really have anyone who had the game. But, you know, you both had to have the same version of the game that came out that year. But they kind of did this yearly iteration, and that was the one that I settled on because it was the most up-to-date at the time. And again, they don't update the card catalogs or anything like that. They just, you know, they had to go and make sure that everything that was in the game was working correct, get all the mechanics right. And that's a lot of tedium to make sure all the mechanics and things work with game code. And all those concepts are working just right. And some games, a couple of the cards in the game were just outright broken. Like, they didn't do exactly what they said they were doing. They did some other effect. You had to try to figure out what that effect was. But, you know, for the most part, it was pretty cool. You can build all those, relive those classic Battle City moments. And this is the time when, you know, Merrick shows up and you have a Shizu and Odeon and like, it's just the old classic card game, and it felt really good to play that, even with its slow-paced game pace and everything. Like, it was still good nostalgia for me, and also I wasn't spending a bunch of money buying the cards, which I did anyway. But, like, you know, I had a deck. It wasn't great. I definitely wasn't at the point where I had good Yu-Gi-Oh decks. You know, that was just something that came much later in my life, but it was really cool to be able to experience those games and learn the strategy and ins and outs. And it did give you a basic tutorial, and it was passable. But I had already known how to play at that point. But it was just so much cheaper than constantly asking my parents for blind packs all the time, you know. And so I just wanted to make sure that I had the actual experience in my hand on the go. And I got that. So, again, there's a multiplayer element, but if your friends don't have it and they're not into card games as much as you are, then you're probably not going to get a chance to experience those additional functions. But it was really cool to be able to have that. And, you know, me and my card games. So those are kind of my experiences with the TCGs and collectible card games on the Game Boy Advance. There's a lot of ones out there. Some might argue that even the Battle Network games have cards, even though they're technically chips. But, you know, there's like a card-like mechanic, if you will. You can make that. And then, of course, there's the Kingdom Hearts, where you have the Chain of Memories, where you have the decks of cards that make up your attacks and things, which I have played a little bit on Switch on my cloud version of Kingdom Hearts. And it's been pretty fun. But, yeah, that's kind of what I'm you know, wanted to bring to the topic, to the table today. Not super long, but it was cool that you got the exclusive cards in that. I did want to mention, like, the cards that you got. They were pretty big at the time. So we got Valkyrion the Magna Warrior, and there was a game prior to that released the 3 Magnet Warriors. And so I had the 3 Magnet Warriors promo cards, and I had to get Valkyrion that combined the 3 of them. And I'm pretty sure I used that card against you when we played, Jacob, at your house. I summoned Valkyrion, the big, you know, magnet Zord, basically. And there was the Sinister Serpent, And then there was the money card, the big card that everybody wanted, and it's still popular to this day, is Harpy's Feather Duster that came as a promo and that exclusive to that pack-in for that 2023 edition. Sorry, not 2023, 2003 edition of Yu-Gi-Oh. So yeah, it was pretty cool to own those cards and actually get to use them in my decks and make them work. I can't remember when I got the Magnet Warriors, but I had to have that set so I could summon this ultimate monster, and it's not very great. It wasn't even great back then, unless you had like 3 of each card, and then you were good. But the Harpy's Feather Duster was one that always was a bane to my opponents whenever I could play that in the physical card game. But also it was really fun to use it in game as well. Yeah. Do you have any memories from the Game Boy Advance era of card games?
I mean, honestly, no. I mean, I've never been much of a card player myself. If anything, with the old games, I've always been a collector. I had DBZ collectors. I had Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I collected. I had Digimon cards that I collected, and Pokemon. But I would argue more recently I've tried to learn the Pokemon game, like when I hung out with Traven a few weeks ago or last month. And I understand it now. I'm not saying I'm any good. I'm absolutely not. But I can understand what I'm doing and not be, lost when I try to play.
Yeah.
So I wish I did, but it's hard for me to sit down and understand it even as an adult. My younger teenage self definitely was not going to be doing that.
Yeah.
But I do specifically that Dragon Ball Z game. I 100% remember seeing that being advertised in my Nintendo Powers. And I loved Dragon Ball Z at the time, so it was always something I looked at for sure. I never owned it, but
I want to say both of those were pre-orders for me.
Pre-orders for you?
Now I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure that I saw it in a Nintendo Power, and I pre-ordered it when I saw that it was coming from GameStop. It was one of my early pre-orders, because I was just like, yes, my card game is coming to something, and it's going to be recognized by people. It wasn't, but...
Yeah.
But,
they should have put a little bit more effort into it. I'm looking at music for the
definitely.
Dragon Ball Z game.
There's one track,
literally,
I think, and sound bits.
Yeah.
That's it.
It is literally one of the most boring tracks you could have. I mean,
It's
that's like like you press pause. That's the music that would play.
There's like
you can't unpause.
There's like a short track where you're going into the battle, and it plays something, and then it goes into just like that. They had the theme music playing like on the title screen, and that was all you really got. It was
that's bad.
It was really, really poorly developed. Not a lot of money was put into it, which is understandable. It was a huge risk, and it was cool to have a card game ported, and the fact that it came to the States is even cooler. But but that is where it was popular, I guess.
I'm really surprised we never got a sequel to Pokemon, the trading card game.
I mean, we never got one in the States. Yeah, Japan did, but
Japan did.
Yeah, they got a second iteration that never came to the States.
They should bring a modern version of it today. States.
It's a lot of translation stuff is why it never came over. I think it's just a lot of work to translate it, and they didn't feel it was worth it.
They do it for everything else, so might as well. I understand money, market. It's the market there for it in America. It definitely was for that first card game, but I know the card games, they're still popular, but I would argue that Pokemon is not it. It's 2016 was the closest we had gotten to that original Pokemon launch fanatic, like where it took our entire nation by storm.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, Pokemon Go was a magical time.
It was really special because it really felt like 1996 all over, or 1998 whenever Pokemon came here to America. That's exactly what it felt like. 100. Everyone's talking about Pokemon. Our freaking politicians were talking about Pokemon while they were campaigning.
They were banning them from schools.
Everyone
was was the coolest if they had a Pokestop near their house. Like, I want to come over to your house and play that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was like
those
people who had schools that had Pokestops and gyms. Like, oh man, that was like the coolest school to be at. Like, I know kids
businesses were like wanting to get they were wanting to get a Pokemon like spin thing at their store.
Yeah.
So they could it was a great way to use advertisement. Hey, come on in, get a cup of coffee while you wait to he got this legendary. It was wild. I mean, you know, you never thought that Pokemon would be that wildly popular like it did originally in the 90s, and it did,
It's a
you know, and
shame.
who's to say that it wouldn't happen again in some other distant future?
It's a shame
That'd be awesome.
we didn't get that over in the Game Boy Advance. You know, get it as a TCG, but you know they've got it now, digital forms and things. It's a lot of resources and translation and things that they had to put into it, but now they can just
For sure.
scan the cards and put them in the game pretty much. Or
Yeah.
you take the files that you use to make the cards and then use those, digitize those and put them in the game or something, and just build out the
That would
mechanics.
be cool. Make them with a little code that you can just, or like that you get whatever's in your, you know how you have the packs and you can like
Yeah.
just scan it. That'd be cool if you bought the packs in real life and then you scanned it and it gave you that exact pack of every card that was in there and put it in your system. And like we had a card game like that, and we could build a deck and do it just like the first game was for
They
the
have
Game
some
Boy.
of
That'd
those
be
with structure decks and things where you put the code in, you get them in the digital platform. But yeah,
that would be cool.
Yeah.
Do that on like I would buy it for Switch. That'd be so fun.
yeah.
But well, I mean, yeah, that's all I got, man.
I think that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a good rest of the week. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, at Nintendo NOSIN. Also on Spotify, Amazon, and Pandora podcasting platforms. You can find us on social media, Facebook at Nintendo NOS, on TikTok, Nintendo_NOS, X Twitter at Nintendo_NOS, Instagram, Nintendo NOSIN. Shoot us an email at NintendoNostalgiaIN@gmail.com. You can give us a call on our Nostalgia Hotline, share your memories, and show us some love at 317-969-5690. Guys, that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time. Later, Preston.
Peace out.